So we are back. We want to thank all of you folks for coming back because you could have left and went somewhere else. But hopefully you liked that piece too about some of the updates around here at JCT Production. But at any rate, being back, I actually want to discuss the point of that we left off with. Where did those new sophisticated people come from that created the massive issues and problems?
Well, you had basically it was Europeans. It was Europeans.
Okay.
And don't forget, in Europe, there were all different levels, of wealth and poverty.
Okay.
So you had, the only people who can really travel are usually somewhat wealthy.
Yeah.
Here in the United States, the people from India who could come over here were all from the Patel and a couple of others. The lower classes could never come here. That's why all the Indian people have the same last names. So you had this influx of people who could make the trip, who could afford to, and some probably who stowed away, et cetera. You always have that. So you had these Europeans who came over with maybe a puffed up attitude because of their position in society.
So not to cut you off, but you're saying there was already a caste system in the European nation, and they brought that over here to American shores, as we call it now, America.
Yeah, there's that kind of thing everywhere. It's everywhere. I mean, even in the indigenous tribes here in the country, you must have had some different levels. Not everybody was the same. And they warred with each other too. So they were not perfect either.
Okay.
So yes, there was a conflict of, this group of people and this group of people. I hesitate to get too much into like they were white Europeans and these are red indigenous, because that's
why I say we as an American society.
Yeah, it creates too much of a division and too much of a finger pointing at one group or another. That's why it always boils down to the fact that we are fallen human beings. We are cut off, separated from the ideal love of God. And if you go back to the beginning and you look at the environment that God created for us, just imagine what that Garden of Eden must have looked like. Just look at the beauty we have around us now. You always talk about this,
indeed.
But what we also have is a lot of ugliness as well.
Indeed.
Now, if I imagine the Garden of Eden, and if Adam and Eve had not fallen and they had children, and they populated the world, all of those people being connected with God through God's ideal of love, we would have a totally different environment here. Now, as human beings, we have to adapt, we have to adjust, we have to take responsibility no matter what our environment is. So, whatever the environment is, if it was great and no ugliness around, we would still have to be creative and use our creative talents, abilities, our individuality, stuff like that. Now we have ugliness mixed in with beauty. We still have to take responsibility for it somehow.
So let me ask you this, because a whole nother show came to view, listening to that statement you made there. And that's responsibility and accountability. And I know we've been close there before, but we never really dived all the way in. We didn't dive in on the deep end. We was in shallow waters. How, with the time that we have left, right, how do we take the word duplicity, and I don't believe there's any word that's ugly except hate, right? How do we take that word duplicity and turn it into a positive state as it relates to Thanksgiving? And not just a holiday, but Thanksgiving, period. How do we reverse the evilness that was done by those invaders, as you called them, in so many terms, right? That actually made these certain things ugly on these shores?
I don't know if I could take or find a positive view of the word duplicity, because the meaning is to be deceitful, deceitfulness. When Lucifer became the devil, the Bible says he's deceitful above all things. He is the one who tricks people. He tricks us. He deceives us. He told Eve, if you do this, don't worry about it. Don't listen to what God said. You want your eyes open so you can see, So he deceived her from the very beginning. And that has been passed down. That was not intended originally.
Indeed.
So, I don't think that you can be thankful at the same time you're deceiving somebody.
Yeah.
Or deceiving something, You're deceiving yourself many times. The truth and love, it just doesn't harmonize in my mind with deceitfulness.
One thing that comes to mind, because I'm looking at you struggle with doing your best to figure out a way to actually make this reversal, and which is a positive thing because it's a beginning. You understand? So the thing is that you have to look at the aspect of it because it's a noun, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the synonyms is treacherously.
Yeah.
Right? So when I think of the truth, right, as brought to us on many different levels by many prophets, right? And when I think of that, right, and I say treachery, why don't we treacherously attack, right, the negativity?
Attack evil. Okay,
yes.
That's the only place I can go.
Attack the negativity in Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Right? Because some people are thankful for terrible things. You understand? So if we begin there to actually say, why don't we use that to actually destroy that? You understand? Because any house divided against itself cannot stand.
Right.
Right? So if I want to destroy fire, I must either bring sand, gas, or water. Right? So you have to take anything that you want to reverse and actually reverse it from its natural state and the essence, whether it be spiritually, mentally, or physically.
Yes, I see what you're saying, and I almost went there,
Okay.
But I held back because...
Never hold back. This is the few. You got to get into them now. Few minutes left.
I was afraid to use the... I was afraid to say something like, we can deceive evil,
There you go.
I was afraid to say that because I wasn't sure where it was going to go from there.
Okay.
But I do believe that, in war, right? Mm-hmm. There are times when telling a lie, being deceitful to the enemy is actually a good thing. You can save your life, save your whole troop, whatever.
One of the elements of victory.
So, yes, that's the only thing I can think of where it is a good thing, when you're deceiving evil in order to keep goodness going, keep it alive, so to speak.
Okay, so what I want to do at this point, time is really winding down today as far as the show, but it's dwindling down on mankind, period, if he don't figure these things out that we're bringing to the table.
That's for
sure. The thing is, I want you, as an individual, Joe Carroll, the great host and so many other hats you wear, right? I want you to focus, right? And tell these folks in your own words a method, one way that you think that we can use what we've learned today as far as using the treacherousness of deceit to be thankful positively in everything that we do by actually making everything positive.
One way is to always look at how I can serve somebody else.
Okay.
How I can give of myself to somebody else. Living for the sake of others, not using yourself up, but in a way, yes, you give and you forget about it. Because if we look at the way God treats us, God has been giving since the beginning. He's been pouring himself into creation and into us. And even though we have been deceitful, we have been off kilter, we have not been right with God, we have demonstrated evil tendencies and things like that. God doesn't change. Love does not change. It's like gold. Gold doesn't change. You can put it in fire, it doesn't change.
It just gets better and better.
Yeah, you can form it into different shapes. So
Love is amazing.
God's love, no matter what's going on around us, whether we're being tortured by an enemy, whether we're going through difficult, challenging circumstances, love remains the same. It's always love. And I can
Just keep reaching higher and higher and higher on that positive plane.
So you can be torturing me, and I can demonstrate love that can melt you.
Indeed.
You know?
Now, with one technique being exposed, I think that you was bringing in the second one as I was listening to you there. But we have, I believe we're down to like 1 or 2 minutes. So I want you to, before we totally close out with that 60 seconds, give them another technique. And I want you to really envision looking out like transcendental meditation and actually saying, oh, wow, this right here will work as well. Give them another technique.
Well, okay, you mentioned transcendental meditation. When you meditate, you are basically shutting out the world. You're shutting out all of the influence. You're basically calming the mind. And you are allowing, when you do that, you are allowing spirit, you're allowing any kind of new thought to come in. Because basically, when we're not in a state of flow, we're basically playing tapes all the time in our minds. We don't really have new thoughts. We think we're thinking, but we're not. And there's one good thought, one good saying is, don't trust your own thoughts. And there's a lot of truth to that. So you always have to look at what's going on in your mind to say, okay, here are my circumstances. I have a choice. I can be grateful or I can be upset about it.
Indeed. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are grateful for you tuning in this evening. We want to welcome you back next week. Stay tuned as we continue to talk about Thanksgiving because it's a daily task. And enjoy your Thanksgiving. Success awaits us. Keep it coming. Joe C. Joe Carroll, it's been a pleasure.
Likewise, likewise. Always.